Well, gotta say, Iran firing off almost 200 missiles at Israel. Not exactly how I pictured starting our deep dive today.
Yeah, definitely gets your attention. And it really highlights how fast things can go sideways in that part of the world.
Right. Second major attack this year, right? Following the one back in April, if I'm remembering right.
You are. And in the big jump, the sheer number of missiles. That's not just posturing. They're trying to overwhelm Israel's defenses.
That's like, imagine just seeing that many missiles in the sky, like, streaking over Tel Aviv.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while, everyone's heard of Iron Dome.
Right. Intercepts all those shorter range rockets and such.
Exactly. This is different. We're talking long-range ballistic missiles here. Some reports say they were intercepted way out, like in the Mediterranean Sea even.
Wow. So what systems are even handling that? That's beyond Iron Dome, isn't it?
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. Most likely, Israel's relying on the Arrow systems. Those are specifically designed for this kind of threat, and, here's the kicker, they were jointly developed with the United States.
Wait, so the U.S. is technologically entangled in this whole thing right from the start?
In a big way.
Yeah.
Not just, supplying weapons, but the tech behind the weapons. Shows how seriously they take this. And that has huge implications for how this whole thing might play out.
Absolutely. But we'll circle back to the whole U.S. involvement thing in a bit. First, I mean, it's easy to get lost in the numbers, the missiles and all. But we're talking about real people caught in the crossfire here. There are reports of at least one person killed in Jericho just from falling debris. And then you see those pictures of the bus.
Yeah, the one completely wrecked in Israel. It's a sobering reminder of the human cost here.
Exactly. Amidst all the talk of missiles and tech, it's easy to forget these aren't just targets, they're people's lives,
They are. And those stories often get lost. Did you know that there's actually a park in Israel? They call it Rocket Park. It's filled with these deactivated rockets that landed there from, past conflicts.
Rocket Park. It sounds both eerie and kind of hopeful at the same time, right?
You could say that, yeah. But it shows the kind of constant threat that Israelis have been living under for decades.
It does make you wonder, though, why this attack? Why now? What's Iran really after?
Well, publicly, Iran's framing it as retaliation. You had the recent deaths of some pretty important figures.
Yeah.
Hezbollah's leader, a top Iranian commander, both killed in Beirut.
Right. And that poster making the rounds in Tehran, Israel is weaker than a spider web. Talk about a statement.
Definitely meant to send a message. But I think it goes deeper than just, revenge.
Yeah.
We have to remember Iran's ideology here.
You're talking about their stance on Israel's right to even exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For them, eliminating Israel, it's not just some far-off goal. It's practically woven into their national identity.
Yeah.
And they've been supporting groups who oppose Israel, providing them with arms, funding, for decades.
Right. Groups like Hezbollah. It's a cycle of violence that's been spinning for far too long, really.
Decades.
Yeah, it's like this whole, the whole other layer of history we're talking about. But I mean, Iran's dealing with their own stuff too, right? Sanctions, internal divisions, people getting fed up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not some, perfectly united front. They've got economic problems, political infighting. This whole attack, it could be as much about looking strong to the outside world as it is about distracting from what's going on at home.
Classic move, right? Unify everyone against a common enemy.
As old as time.
Yeah.
And it can work, at least for a while. Problem is, it's a risky move. One wrong step, one overreaction, and things can spiral completely out of control.
And on the other side, you've got Israel vowing to respond, but what does that even look like in this situation?
Yeah, they're in a tough spot, no doubt. They've got this history of responding pretty forcefully, and I mean, we already see it happening, right? Sending troops into southern Lebanon.
Targeting Hezbollah.
Exactly. But a full-on conflict with Iran, with all their allies and proxies, that's a whole different ballgame.
It's like they're trying to walk this tightrope.
Right.
You have to show you're strong, but not tip things over into an even bigger war.
And then you've got the whole issue of civilian casualties, both on their side and in, Lebanon, Syria, wherever Hezbollah is operating.
Yeah.
No easy answers there. Plus, let's not forget the international pressure they're already getting. This isn't just a two-sided thing anymore.
Right. You've got the U.S., the U.K. They've already shown their hand, literally, with those destroyers shooting down missiles. And then there's, the wild cards, Russia, China, watching all this unfold. What are they thinking right now?
Million-dollar question, right? The U.S., I think, they're in a really tricky spot. They want to back up Israel, obviously, but they also know getting dragged into a larger conflict, that's a whole other can of worms. So I think we'll see them trying to do both provide support but also push for some kind of diplomatic solution.
Diplomacy. I mean, right now it feels like everyone's just yelling at each other.
Yeah, the public statements, they're not exactly helping. But, a lot goes on behind closed doors, too. There could be back channels, negotiations, mediation, things we don't even hear about.
I guess that's reassuring in a way. But still, with all this back and forth, all the threats, it makes you wonder, what about the people just trying to live their lives in the middle of all this?
It's the biggest question, really, that constant fear, never knowing if today's the day something happens. The psychological toll it takes, the erosion of trust, how it impacts just going about your day.
Yeah.
That's the hidden cost of conflict, and we don't talk about it enough.
It's true. It's so easy to get caught up in the big picture, the missiles, the politics, but it always comes back to people. Always.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but sometimes looking at all this, it feels kind of, well, overwhelming. Like, what can anyone even do about it?
It's that feeling of helplessness, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Even in situations like this, with all the global players, the missiles, the rhetoric, it all comes down to people. Think about it. Even in those big, powerful systems, the ones that seem, impossible to influence, leaders still have to answer to someone. They feel pressure, public opinion, internal dissent, even just a shift in the news cycle. It matters.
So you're saying our actions, they do make a difference.
Absolutely. Staying informed, talking about this stuff, contacting, your representatives, it all has an impact. It's not about, single-handedly stopping wars, but adding your voice to the demand for something better.
I like that. Instead of feeling powerless, it's like we're all kind of nudging things in a different direction.
Right, right. And we have to remember, this whole thing, it's not over. It's going to keep changing, keep developing. And to really, really understand where it might go next, we got to keep our eyes on a few things.
Lay it on me. What should we be watching for?
Okay, so first, any sign of direct talks between Iran and Israel. Right now, it's all public statements, which just makes things worse. Second, what does the U.S. do next? Do they keep trying to, walk that line between backing Israel and pushing for diplomacy? Or they pick a side? And then the wild card, what about the rest of the world? Do they present a united front, tell everyone to chill, or does it get, messy with countries like Russia and China getting involved?
Man, okay. A lot to keep track of. But I gotta say, hearing you break it down like that, it feels a little less, I don't know, impossible.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Cut through the noise, figure out what's really going on, and then even just having these conversations, that's a start.
You got that right. So, last question. If you were sitting down with President Biden right now, what would you tell him to do? What's the one move that could, I don't know, maybe de-escalate things a little?
If I had his ear for 5 minutes, I'd say, open a direct line to Tehran. Doesn't have to be public, even just a back channel. Sometimes quiet diplomacy, it goes a lot further than, lobbing more words at each other.
Makes you think. It's easy to feel like the big stuff, the missiles, the wars, it's all out of our hands. But you've given us a lot to think about, the human cost, the politics, and how, even as individuals, we can actually do something.
Exactly. So yeah, stay informed, keep asking the tough questions, and don't be afraid to talk about it. That's how we make things better.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And to everyone listening, we'll be back soon to keep digging into this as it develops. But for now, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.